Hi everyone, it's Jen with Spirited Saturdays with Freedom Fighters. And this week we're talking about issues surrounding sexual identity and sexual preference. There are two cats in the background who don't have to worry about this issue. They're just mindlessly having fun, so that's fine. I'll let them be. Anyway, basically how over the next 4 weeks, we're going to be talking about that issue in relation to recovery, and I want to share some of my story with you guys and talk about some experiences that I've had with friends, and I want to talk about how this can tie into needing to cope in some way that might not be the best way. I think often when people realize this about themselves, that they're gay, straight, well, not really, when they're gay, well, depending, but no, when they're gay, bi, transgender, anything that isn't generally accepted by society at large, transsexual, when they feel like they were born into the wrong gender, whatever it is, whether it's a sexual preference or a gender identity thing, that is that could be very, very heavy stuff and very hard to deal with, and it could be a process that takes a very long time to come to terms with and to understand what you need to do in order to live fully and be at peace with yourself. It takes a long time in some cases to realize that that's okay. And if you spend a while thinking that it's not okay and believing that it's not okay to be who you are, then if you're already vulnerable to something like a self-destructive behavior or a mood disorder or something like that, obviously eating disorders included, then having an issue that's so closely tied into identity can often trigger unhealthy coping mechanisms if you are not yet ready to embrace this about yourself. I think it's so important. See, I came to a place of I identify as bisexual. That's just I take that and I don't think twice about it these days, but I know there was a time, and there was a long time where I would never have imagined coming out. When I was 14, it was the first time I thought about a girl, and I sat in my bedroom hysterically crying at the thought that I was having, but and I said, there's no way I'm ever going to act on this or identify myself with this. And, I always, before that point, what I said to myself was, if you ever find out or realize you're gay or you like women, you're not ever going to live that. You're going to lie. You're going to hide it forever. And that's just how it has to be, because it's just far too shameful and just not worth the struggle. And that is what, I grew up, I wasn't really surrounded by that population, and, nobody was outright not accepting, but I just wasn't really in an environment that really nurtured being whoever you are, and that really nurtured, and I mean like environment across the board, school, home. Not that my home didn't nurture being whoever you are, but like it wasn't out there, that it wasn't talked about. That's basically what I'm saying. So Mom and Dad, if you're watching this, I'm not saying that you didn't try to tell me that it was okay to be who I was, or not okay. But yeah, it's just that this situation, this issue, it just wasn't discussed. it was nobody's fault. But I never had this like familiarity with it from early on. And when I realized that this is what I identified as, it scared the living shit out of me. I was like, no, no, no. This is going under the table and locking a door and whatever needs to happen. And years later in college, I had feelings for this woman. And again, I hid it from everybody. She came to visit me, and I hid it from just everybody. I think I told one person, and it took so much guts for me to tell this one person, but when I did, I felt so much better. But still, it was a source of shame. Not her, I don't mean that, but just, that I was different. And, we hid our relationship for a while from everybody, all of our friends, our families. And later on, we eventually ended it, and but it was really good that I had that experience and that I had the chance to understand more about myself and start to embrace what I wanted, even though I wasn't yet ready to tell anybody else. It was after, that was a summer, and it was after that summer that I started going to school I transferred colleges, and the school that I went to was an art school, and just the most diverse population you could imagine, and widely accepted of the GLBT community, widely accepted. So I was able to start experimenting with learning to be okay with that language, just saying, yep, I'm my girlfriend, because we were still dating for a little bit when I went there. So my girlfriend, my this, that, I'm bi, starting to say it, but I was still like, it was like this little hesitation in my voice, like I couldn't fully say it. Somehow it still felt like I wasn't good enough. And it was the following semester that I took a medical leave to get help for some problems I was having before the eating disorder. I self-injured, and I had depression, and I needed that time. So I was surrounded by a lot of people in this day program who were also the GLBT, gay, bi, transgender, transsexual, and it was accepted there. So I ended up, I think it was a combination of my first semester at that school and then going to this program, which I didn't go for that reason, but I ended up getting that out of it, was all of a sudden, like, because there was somebody that I had feelings for in the program, and I explored that in therapy. Like, it was the perfect place to explore it. And I finally realized it was time for me to say something to my parents. So I ended up telling them, and it was like this huge, huge, huge weight off. I was lucky enough in the fact that they were pretty cool with it. Like, I don't know how cool, but like definitely, like they took it well. I don't know like how they would react if I was going to marry a woman. Like if this were really happening and I really said I'm going to be married to a woman for the rest of my life, I don't know. It would be a huge adjustment for them. But that's part of the process, is realizing that no matter what happens, this is about making myself happy and achieving peace and being happy with myself and whatever my feelings are telling me that I need. And I think this is just, and I've had friends who've gone through really terrible struggles in the beginning, and falling into some bad places because they were terrified and ashamed. And I just want to say, there are some parallels in a way, in a kind of a, not exactly way, but in a way to the eating disorders, in that there's no shame, you're not alone, and you're allowed to, now this is where it like divides, but like with the eating disorder, you're allowed to say, I have this problem, there's nothing to be ashamed of, Now I'm going to go and try to help myself. Now let's just make a little adjustment. Let's tweak that for the issue, which is not a problem. It shouldn't even be really called an issue. It's just what is. It's just a person's preference, which isn't, I don't even think it's a preference. I think this is how you feel. But I think that in that situation, I think everybody needs to say it is not only okay, but great. It's great that I have realized a little bit more about myself, who I am. And this is, again, very different from the eating disorder, but it's just an issue of identity. But in this case, you are allowed to say, and you are encouraged to say, I am proud of who I am. I mean, I would take that and own it. I am proud of who I am, and that could transcend to I am proud of, being in recovery or being recovered or working really hard at recovery from an eating disorder, just lumping things together. But I am proud of who I am. And for me, I'm proud of who I am. I am bisexual. And the thing about it is that I have come to a point, and when I was talking to people who were starting to come out, I'm thinking of one person in particular, but I remember telling this person, oh my God, you're going to get to a point where it's no big deal. It's like second nature. It's like saying I'm Jewish. I don't know, it's not quite as surfacey as I have brown hair, but it's, it's just I'm XYZ and I'm bi or I'm gay. And I also understand that people who are bi don't necessarily have the same issues as people who are gay, but I will say it's relative, and and I wouldn't say if you're bi, don't just brush that aside. Don't think you don't have it as hard as somebody who is gay and having to say I like only this one gender. No, I think it's always hard. It can be hard if you were not raised to believe that it was, really okay and really normal and really fine. Then it can be a hard transition no matter what. Realizing you're in your mind, a little different than people around you. So whatever that is. But I honestly think you might go through this period of really getting used to being who you are and calling it like it is, but after a while, it becomes so natural and so second skin and so not an issue, just not an issue, and it's even more so proud, the opposite of shame, just proud. And, I be proud and just I don't know, if you're having feelings of struggling with it, with confusion about yourself, I understand how that could make you want to resort to unhealthy behaviors or feel like you need to, or feel like you're just happening to do that and you don't know why and you're confused and scared. It's okay. It's okay to be attracted to whoever you're attracted to think about whoever you think about, and it's okay to feel however you feel, whether that's a man, a woman, a non-gender. It's okay. So this issue is very linked to identity and very linked to the possible formation of a problem related to identity if it's not handled the right way, if it's not expressed in a healthy way. Be honest, and if something else is coming up for you while you're exploring this and while you're becoming honest with yourself, you deserve to work on that, and you don't deserve to hurt. And there are always people who understand you and who have gone through it and who are going through it, and you're never alone. So that's that, and more about it next week. Okay, take care.